Send out something.
Hey, hey, Jackie, is hearing examiner Merciel there? I thought I saw him.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Would you like him to come up where you generally sit?
Well, he certainly can. I'm just making sure that we're not waiting on anybody but Heaver at this point.
I'm here.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. I'll give a minute or two.
Archie Bunker of only he can sit in his chair.
None of them young kids know who Archie Bunker is, Sue.
No, I know.
I don't think there's a young kid in the room.
No, it was probably again this time.
I'll give him one more minute and then we'll get this underway.
Commissioners.
Tonight, that's it.
Jackie, you ready?
Tonight,
Yes.
we moved it from
Okay. And David, I know you're ready. I saw that.
accommodate people going up to a conference. And
You guys go. Where's October 1st?
yes. Yeah, we could come. Jackie has something on the agenda to set a special meeting to be able to do that.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the County Commissioners' regular meeting for September 20th, 2021. If you're here for the Commissioners meeting, that'll start right here at 6 o'clock. But right now we have a Board of Equalization meeting to begin at 5:30. Item 1, call to order and roll call. I'd like to call the Board of Equalization to order. Commissioner Ibarra.
Here.
Mr. Richardson.
Here.
Mr. Gosar here. Item 2, considerations of changes on the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda for the Board of Equalization? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Item 3, reopen evidence in the matter of the petition for appeal before the County Board of Equalization by David G. Meyer for property at 2518 State Highway 34, Wheatland, Wyoming, docket number 2021-003 until Friday, September 24th, 2021. Hearing examiner Mercil, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gosar. And for the record, we heard testimony in this case on August 24th, 2021. Mr. Nicholas has since entered an appearance on behalf of Dr. Meyer in this case, and Mr. Nicholas has a request he'd like to make. Let me go back and put the whole record on complete the record. At that hearing, we'd set a deadline for September 17th for the issuance of the board's decision. As of right now, that board decision has not been issued. September 17th was just a random date picked, so we get it done by October 1st, but I believe Mr. Nicholas is here with a request on behalf of his client.
I do, Mr. Marcel and Chairman Gosar, members of the Board of Equalization. As you know, David Meyer is a resident here in the town. He was reared in here, and he built a pretty interesting house on Seville Canyon Road. He presented his evidence to you. And then the board actually invited him to meet with the assessor and announced that you would make your decision on the 17th. And there was a date established for the filing of findings of fact and conclusions of law. During the discussions between Mr. Meyer and Grant Showaker, when Mr. Meyer received the proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law from the county attorney, he mistakenly believed that they were your findings, and then approached me. And what he has asked for, and we asked for you today, is to permit him to file his findings of fact and conclusions of law by Friday of this week. And that'll permit me an opportunity to sit down with him, make sure that he gets them put together. And then if you would hold off, obviously, till afterwards, and then I think he intends to resume his conversations with the assessor to determine whether there could be a resolution. So the correct request is really twofold. One is to withhold your decision, or not to consider the matter until after you've received findings of facts from both sides, that you permit Mr. Meyer to present his findings by this Friday, and then give, we would hope that you might wait on deliberating until a week or so after the findings are produced to give Mr. Meyer opportunity to meet with the assessor to see if there could be a resolution. I think that if we focus on getting his findings in this week, that'll give me an opportunity to get up to speed and then to be able to meet with Mr. Showaker in the week that follows. So if you, in essence, not deliberate for 2 weeks, give us 1 week to provide findings, I think that meets your statutory obligations. If not, then we would waive any statutory requirement to get an earlier finding out.
And Mr. Nicholas addressed the second part of that. The statute says the decision has to be entered by October 1st.
October 1st, so I'll have to work the Friday's date should work with that, and then we understand we'll have to be cooperative back to you.
All right, that's the one that we have to stay under those constraints.
Can't waive that one. You got to report to the state board of equalization.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
So then I'll put it to the board, I guess. Would,
No objection.
oh, sorry, thank you. Apologize. Does anyone have an objection to waiting till September 24th, this Friday, to receive Dr. Meyer's findings of facts and conclusions of law? Mr. Richardson shaking his head no.
I have no objection.
Yeah, I have no objection.
No objection for me, hearing officer Mercil.
All right, thank
No
you.
objections from me either.
That's Grant.
I should speak audibly, shouldn't I?
Yes. All right, then for that part of it, then we'll give you till September 24th. With the understanding, I'll leave it to the board's schedule, but we have to have that out by September 30th is a Thursday. October 1st is the following Friday, so we can't do the full 2 weeks. I don't know when the board plans on meeting again to finalize the decision. I know they're going to make it's on the agenda tonight for a special meeting to be set. Do we have an idea when that might be?
That's next to be discussed.
But then, Mr. Nicholas, you might want to stick around for that, because that'd be the only, I don't know how much time we need to get it to the state, how much time Ms. Gonzalez's office would need to prep and send it out. I think that might be.
Well, I think what I hear from you is that you're gonna have to make your decision that follows. So we file on the 24th, then you'll have to meet probably next week. You've got to have time to draft it. I think that's the issue. We don't have two opposing finals back. Like everybody else, you have a limited amount of time to get it out.
So we'll need to meet Tuesday. So if we get it on Friday, we get it to the board over the weekend for consideration. Meet Tuesday, Wednesday.
Of next week.
Yes.
Yeah,
And are they going to be evening meetings?
I'm okay with whatever.
Josh, how much time do you need to write the decision?
I'll have to see Mr. Nicholas's finding of facts and conclusions of law.
Couple of days, because next Tuesday is the 28th. Thursday is the 30th. And the first is Friday. So you need a couple of days. We probably need to have the thing decided by the 28th, which is Tuesday. So I don't know, Monday or Tuesday, guys, is either one of those better or worse for you?
Monday and Tuesday during the day, both work well for me. Just a reminder that we have a joint work session on Tuesday evening at 6 with the city.
How about Monday during the day or in the evening?
Monday evening would be perfect for me.
Could we do something about 6:30? I have a board of directors meeting up until 6:30.
I have a meeting till 5:30 anyway, so
Yeah, yeah.
Could we do 6:30 on Monday?
perfect.
Josh, can you do Monday at 6:30?
I can be here Monday at 6:30.
Okay, and Jennifer, will that work for you also?
It will, thank you.
All right. Phil, will that work for you? And Mr.
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Okay.
So not hard to get, aren't they?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hearing Officer,
Yes.
do we need a motion to set this in motion?
Probably wouldn't hurt. Let's
Yeah,
just do it anyway.
I move that we set the deadline for findings of fact and conclusions of law for both parties to be Friday, 24th September.
Can we have that by noon?
At noon. And that we set a special meeting of the Board of Equalization, and we set a meeting for the Board of Equalization Monday. That would be the 27th. Monday, September 27, 2021 at 6:30 PM.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Would you probably like to have an e-file, e-file with Jackie by noon?
And
Are you sending copies to the commissioner or the board?
I did, and I submitted a Word
I'll go ahead.
copy
Okay, I'll do both.
to a hearing officer, just so he would have,
Perfect.
not have to repeat it.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Seal, do we need to do anything before we close out the Board of Equalization?
no, that's it.
Okay. Item 5, adjourn at the Board of Equalization. So I move we adjourn the Board of Equalization, and we'll start the County Commission meeting right at 6 o'clock. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you for giving me the time, and thanks, I'm sure Meyer thanks as well. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Good night.
Have a good
Good
night, Phil.
Oh my God, do you know what rabbit brush is?
No.
Okay.
It's that yellow top brush that's like sagebrush.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know what the name of it is, yeah.
That is like kryptonite for me.
Yes.
Is that what makes you sneeze and feel awful?
So, about 3 days ago, maybe 4 days ago, it grows yellow,
Yeah.
and then it turns to a tan color,
Yeah.
and just goes,
Not the whole game,
it's
just
fused
the first half. Yeah.
pollen everywhere, and it is killing me.
I was out, I watched Hillary's dogs. See you, Josh, have a good night.
Thanks, Josh.
I watched Hillary's dogs this weekend because they went down to Denver on Saturday and came back on Sunday. And I was out in their back lot throwing the ball for the dogs and I had
Hey, David and Jackie, are you ready to go?
Total.
You are welcome.
Are you ready, Jackie?
Yes, sir, I will.
Okay. How about you, David?
Yes, sir.
So you're right. isn't it?
Excuse me.
Awesome.
Seriously, it should be 90%.
So welcome back to the Commissioners' regular meeting. Welcome back to the regular meetings of the Commissioners on September 20th, 2021. Item 1, call to order and roll call. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Commissioner Ibarra.
Here.
Commissioner Richardson.
Here.
Commissioner Gosar is also here. Item 2, would you stand and start with me on the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3, public hearings, we have none. Item 4, comments from the public. Are there any public comments first in person at the meeting room there at the Commissioners room, and then we'll go online. Is there any public comments from the Commission room? I don't see anybody. How about anybody online? You just raise your hand, I'll call on you. Last chance in the Commissioners room and last chance online. I'd entertain a motion to close the public comments.
I move that we close the public comment period.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 5, disclosures. Commissioner Ibarra, any disclosures?
I have none.
Commissioner Richardson?
I have none.
And none for me also. Item 6, consideration of changes on the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? All righty. Item 7, approval of the consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. On to the regular agenda, item 8, a presentation regarding EMS costs in Albany County. I believe we have City Manager Janine Jordan and Chief Dan Johnson. I think the agenda says Stalder, Dale Stalder, but I think it's you, Dan. So the floor is yours. Take it away.
Members of the commission, can you hear me? Fine. Okay.
Got it.
Members of commission and Mr. Chair, thank you for this opportunity to present some information we were asked to provide tonight. Janine is supposed to be here. She's supposed to do the second half on the cost basis, but if I don't know if she tried to dial in or thought she was going to be there. So I will go through that if she doesn't make it. So are you going to bring up the PowerPoint? Oh, they have it. Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to point out, I want to go through some background history of where we came from, kind of. In 1979, the hospital in the city of Laramie and fire department joined together and looked at a way to provide EMS throughout all of Albany County. I think prior to 79, county calls were being run by MSTs out of the hospital in the city. The firemen were trying to do ambulance calls in the city. We looked at operational agreements that were developed, and the city of Laramie at that time began providing all of Albany County EMS service for transport. That not only do we do emergency transport, but it's important we point out that we do interfacility transfers between hospitals. So we will, it's been rising through recent years, but we will do approximately just over 500 transfers from our hospital to another facility on top of our emergency 911 calls. So And that started in 1979. Operational agreements were reviewed and they were updated. And in about 2011 period, the agreement really hadn't been updated since 2007 at that time. We really started looking at the agreement and there were some problems with our operational agreement. And we decided, the city and IMH at that time, we went ahead and continued our operational agreement and we continued providing EMS service the way we always had, but we also realized we needed to really start looking at our way we provide service. And we thought we co-joined together and we commissioned Fitch and Associates, a well-known EMS consultation. And they came in and studied our basically our program, how we do our business. So we started the study, and I believe the study was launched in 2012. They really looked at three different areas, and they focused on three different areas of what we were doing. The first area is they looked at our organization, how we're formed, how we're providing the service, and what other partners we have, what other, how does things happen in Albany County? How does the patient get to the hospital? What's all involved in that? How our agreement addresses oversight, how it addresses patient care. So out of that part, they came up with a lot of recommendations, which we incorporated into our lease agreement, and we formed a couple of committees that we kind of direct our activities. Our service delivery and our performance, they were looking at the level of service we were providing to our customers, and our performance would be our en route times. So like, we were at that time we were going, we called it a duty ambulance. We just provided like a first line ambulance, second line ambulance. Now we're providing first line ambulance out of each station. We've reduced our response times. So that's the kind of things we were looking at that. We also, under service delivery and performance, we also really looked into our medical direction, any legal issues and any compliance issues. We've done a lot of work on compliance and making sure that all of our Medicare billing and everything that we're filling, that we're really working synonymous with the billing department and the IMH to do the best we can on the paperwork end of the job. So the next slide is, and the third area that we looked at was financial and the development of our pro forma templates. Now, on the financial end, we really got focused on that and on the recommendations in 2015 and 2016. We were defining the roles that the hospital has, the roles that IMH has, the roles of the city. We're providing the personnel, providing the training, providing the equipment, and basically providing the wheels on the ground service to the customer. IMH provides all the billing and collections, and they also provide some management oversight on their end, some compliance direction. Out of that, and I think it's important to talk about, when we were looking at this part, we were also at the same time working toward our lease agreement that currently exists today. And at that time, we reached out to the county commission because we look at the county as a partner agency and providing services in all of what we do in this venture. So there was, I just want to make sure you were aware we did reach out at that time. The pro forma that is later, we have an overview of profit loss established by the city and IMH. And that's based off of the Fitch and Associates template and national standards of how they look at cost for providing EMS. On the financial end, we also have a annual reconciliation at the end of the year. I was talking to Commissioner Richardson briefly before the meeting, and the The base number that we receive in revenue from IMH is at $900,000 a year annual. That's from the billing they collect. And once a year, we do what we call a true up. So we're guaranteed that, but then there's usually a check at the end of the year that covers, if we collect a little bit more. So we have some operational money coming in that we operate from, and then we true up, balance the books once a year. So that's how that works. Okay, on slide 4, in 2017, really is when we transitioned from the operational agreements that evolved from 1979 to that point to the current lease agreement that exists today. That was signed in February and March of 2017. And the city council and IMH agreed to continue emergency medical services countywide for another 5 years by a lease agreement. Now, one thing that's important to understand that, and in their resolution that's in our lease agreement, there's the phrase, IMH is a hospital district. They have legal authority to provide an ambulance service, but they are not required by law to provide this service. So there was still a weakness in our agreement in responding into Albany County, and the fact that, as a city of Laramie fire chief, I brought up, well, I know where my jurisdiction ends. For me to leave my jurisdiction and provide services, I need something addressed in our agreement that solidifies that being in the county. And this is a statewide struggle at this time. There's a lot of jurisdictions trying to figure out how do we provide ambulance service to their populations. So I know the legislature is studying it. I know that there's different models throughout the whole state. So at that point, we signed in February and IMH signed in March, and or vice versa. I think maybe it was IMH signed in February, we signed in March. But then the county commissioners in April passed resolution 2017-009. And really in the resolution, it says that the county doesn't object to the city coming into the county to provide those services in that resolution, and with personnel and equipment. And that's really how our lease agreement is formed, is we're providing personnel and equipment by a lease to IMH and providing the service. So IMH's name is listed there, part of our ambulance service in the city of Laramie. So, and one of the things, and I'll talk about toward the end of this, is that I think that needs to be strengthened at some point. So moving forward. So in concurrence with, we are entering, so you're aware, we have had our first meeting, but we are entering into talks about our next agreement, our next lease agreement, so with IMH. And at 2017, we go into the next slide, cost of service, and Ginny is here, and I am going to turn the podium over to her. I will take a break, and I will finish.
Thank you. So I'm on the slide titled Cost of Service. Can you hear me through my mask? Okay, great. Thank you. So as Dan said, we developed what we call a pro forma. For those of you in the business sector, it's more like a profit and loss, just a fancy government term for it. As Dan said, that was developed based on the recommendations of our consultant and based on sort of national standards for understanding the cost of providing emergency medical services. So what you're looking at on this slide is our most recent pro forma. This is not from this year, it's year-old data, but it's the most recent reconciliation we've done. So I thought I'd provide it to you as an example. And I'll share that I think it's a relevant example because our costs and our revenue haven't changed much in the last 2 to 3 years. So even if we looked at this year, I don't think it would be dramatically different. So our payments, net revenue payments amounted to just slightly more than $1 million. When you subtract out the patient interfacility transfer portion of that revenue, you'll see that what's left is the emergency medical response revenue, which is $531,357. So that's on the revenue side. When we look at the expense or the cost of service side of providing our emergency medical services, our personnel and non-personnel expenses total $2.7 million or $2,735,766. And then when we net out the revenue from that, you'll see that the city's net equity position for our emergency response is $2.2 million in the red. Now I want to talk about what this includes and doesn't. It does not include E911. That's covered under a separate agreement or dispatch. It also does not include any general administration of the city. So that would be things like payroll, HR expenses, portion of my time, a portion of the city finance director's time. There's no administrative overhead in that. The only managerial oversight included in the expense number is for folks providing directly EMS or supervising it directly on up through Chief Johnson. What is included is what I just said, all of our operating and maintenance personnel costs, all training and depreciation. Any questions on that? Does that kind of is it pretty straightforward? Okay. So if we look at the next slide, and this is really the data that we were asked to bring to you. We had previously shared in June with your intergovernmental committee consisting of Commission Chair Gosar, Councilor Somerville, Councilor Pierce, and Councilor Schuster. We had shared this 2020 and 2019 data. We were asked by that group to present tonight 5 years worth of data. So we've gone back and mined that data to look at our emergency responses, I guess. So if you look from 2016 to 2020, and I'll just use 2016 as a year that we can walk across to make sure we all understand the data. The first number you see is 2,624 emergency responses total conducted by the Laramie Fire Department. Then you move over to the right column and you see of the 2,624 responses, 415 of them were extraterritorial beyond the city's jurisdictional boundary, but still within Albany County. And then I just ran some simple percents here, just so we had them. So for 2016, that means that 16% of our calls were provided, our services were provided outside of the city, and 84% were provided inside of the city. So I ran a few just sort of fun statistics on this. If you look down to the sixth row, average calls per 24-hour workday, about 8 total emergency responses. And of course, this does not include patient interfacility transfer. This is just emergency first response. When you call 911 and you say, I need help. So about 8 total, and then 2 of those 8 going out into the county. When I ran a 3-year average on these numbers, you'll see that it came out for a 3-year average, about 17.6% of our responses go into the county, 82.4% within the city. And when I ran a 5-year average, it was just about the same, but closer to 18% in the county and 82 or 81% in the city. So if you have any questions on that data, I'm happy to answer. That's probably the most data deep slides that you'll get tonight, hopefully.
I have a question. Are these fire and ambulance calls?
Yeah,
Or just ambulance?
That's a great question. Thank you, Commissioner Heber. So we were asked tonight only to address ambulance. Of course, our fire response is a completely separate entity.
Sure.
Totally different business or side of the business from EMS. Within EMS, we have the 2 sides that the chief talked to you about on the first slide. We have first response emergency medical, and then we have patient interfacility transfer. These numbers reflect only the emergency first response medical, not patient transfer, not fire.
Gotcha.
So the last slide, Dan and I are going to tag team a bit. So here's what's going on in 2020, just to bring all this historical data that Dan's provided and I provided current. The city and the hospital will this year begin discussing the renewal of our lease agreement. That needs to be negotiated this year and completed not later than February of 2022. As part of that, we will go back and do what Fitch and Associates recommended we do as kind of a best practice in 2012, which is revisit with not only our hospital partner, the lease renewal, but visit with our other partners. So we're coming back to share this data with you this year, as we did in 2012 when we met with the then 3 commissioners. And then Dan wanted to just close out by touching on something he already mentioned briefly, which is, I think you probably know, as we do, that this is a really big issue across the state right now. Most of our local governments, cities and counties are struggling. How do we keep doing EMS? Like it's an expensive business. And it's not a simple thing logistically to deploy and to maintain. And then, of course, the financial aspects of it are very onerous, particularly in some of the more rural parts of the state. So Dan's going to talk to you about that a little bit, and then we'll be happy to stand for questions. Thanks for having us.
Honorable chair, members of the commission, I just want to take the opportunity once again to thank you to present and open up this conversation with the county commission. I think we've already touched on all the points in the last slide. We are in the process of our 5-year lease agreement will be expiring. So we're in the process with IMH to move that forward. We are here tonight reaching out, touching base with what we consider partner agencies. So, and we will stand for questions.
Thank you, Chief Johnson. Thank you, Manager Jordan. Commissioner Rivera, any questions for these guys?
Not right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Richardson, any questions?
I might have some in a minute.
Okay. Well, let me start off. Could we walk back to the 5th of your 8 slides, the cost of service, just so I understand what I'm looking at? Under personnel, there's a figure of $2,291,339. Is that just for personnel for EMS, or is that the cost of your fire department and EMS combined?
Thank you, Commissioner Gosar. The total cost of the Laramie Fire Department is in excess of $6 million, I believe. I should have looked up this number today, but I want to say it's slightly over $6.5 million, maybe 6.7. Dan, do you know off the top of your head this year?
Just over 6.
Yeah. So to put that in perspective, I offer that number because LFD operations are over $6 million, and this $2.2 million does reflect the personnel share for EMS services.
Super, thank you. And then just to follow up, you guys had done some work with firefighters not being the drivers of the equipment. Could you talk to me a little bit about that and the cost savings associated with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let the chief.
Commissioner Gosar, I believe your question was the non-sworn entities that we have hired. So we started about approximately 2 years ago, what we call the civilian driver program. Our number of transfers from the facility in Laramie to facilities throughout the Front Range has increased dramatically, taking basically firefighters out of service. And so you have one in the back and you have one driving. And the more and more time we were spending on the road, and we realized there's a better way to provide this, at least fiscally. And so we started a civilian driver program, and what we interview, train people that are not sworn fire, and they are on our pager list. And we have assignments made throughout the month. There's typically, when we're fully staffed with our civilian part-timers, there's typically 2 to 3 available per day that are available to drive a transfer and put the firefighter in the back, and the civilian drives the transfer down instead of sending 2 firefighters, and that leaves 1 firefighter back in town. It's working real well. It has its turnover in it, but it's keeping going. It's really working well for us, and we're real fortunate that it's working so well. So.
Thank you. And I just have one more question, Chief Johnson. The non-personnel, the 444,427, that's maintenance, supplies, training, everything involved in that category?
Commissioner Gosar, I just looked at these numbers today, so I'm saving Dan from having to sift through his pile. This is all of those non-direct payroll and benefit expenses like training, and probably training is the lion's share. Of this 444,000, there are consumable supplies, equipment, such as, oh, Dan, what's the acronym I can't think of for the pumps, the electric heart pumps?
AEDs.
And not EKGs, the ones that actually do compressions. Yeah, the Lucas devices, thank you. The Lucas devices that'll do electronic compressions. So this is equipment, largely training, and then some miscellaneous like consumable supplies and things of that nature.
Thank you so much. I just have to tell you, I started with a group with Wyoming County Commissioners Association talking about EMS, and we've just had a few meetings. And so there are two takeaways that I come away with from you guys' service. First of all, it's really rare to have paramedics do an EMS service in Wyoming, and Albany County is really fortunate to have those type of trained people in those ambulances coming to meet people who need it. So thank you for that. That is really an important piece that not many places in Wyoming can celebrate. And then the second piece is I really do believe that this is a cost that the county should help with. We're, as county commissioners, to take care of the health and safety of our constituents first and foremost, and I can't think of a thing that is more tied to health and safety than EMS services. I think to have it borne by one entity makes a service always more brittle and more able to be hit by an economic downturn in one place or the other. And so those are my thoughts and concerns. I think that as we have entered into a agreement for the detention center with the city of Laramie, this is another great opportunity to memorialize an agreement other than just a handshake, so that everybody understands what they're getting and what they're giving. And then if there's any other type of dispute that comes up or something that needs to be changed, you have something in writing that both sides have agreed to. And so I really do appreciate you guys taking the opportunity to educate me both in the intergovernmental group and then here tonight. And so commissioners, do you have any more questions? I appreciate it.
I have one question, Chief Johnson. This civilian part-time help, are they paid per drive?
There's a small pager pay, and then if they get called in, they're paid by the hour to drive. There's different levels of experience. We have a range, so they don't all make the same. But people that have been in the program longer, make more. So.
Okay, and do we keep those pretty well, or is there a lot of turnover?
We have a core group that's really reliable and doing a great job, and we have some other people coming along that do what they can, and it's not a, our firefighters are assigning shifts and their schedule out. Well, these people are putting in their time when they're available, and so it's managing, And the fluctuation is we're really at the low end when we have like 6. We try to keep like between 12 to 18 that are available, and then that number 12 is a really good number. So.
Thank you. Thank you for all this. It's very informative. I wasn't aware of all this, so thank you.
I had just one more comment. It's not on the slide, and I do think it's important to talk about. I did write down before I came over a general sense of the training hours that are involved to achieve the certifications that our EMS system has. Now we're licensed in our agreement with IMH. We're required to maintain a level of EMT intermediate, advanced cardiac life support is what we get our people to. Then we several of our people exceed that and go to the paramedic level. We have roughly a quarter of our department approaching the paramedic level. But everyone, once they've been there long enough, everyone, all of our roster, we have 42 line positions. They all maintain that intermediate ALS. Just to give you an idea, EMT basic training. Now, when I talk training goes into, you got to think there's classroom time, but there's also clinical time you need to spend, and there's also ride time you have to do with organizations. So the most basic level of training is 200 hours, and this is per person, To reach advanced EMT, you have to add another 150 hours of training on top of that. To reach the intermediate, which is the base that we require, that's another 672 hours of training to reach that level. And the paramedics would have to do an additional 1,200 hours of training between classroom, right train, and clinicals to achieve that level. So when you add all that up, it's an enormous amount of investment in training. So I just thought it was important.
It's more than college.
Yeah. It's quite daunting in my opinion.
And if I could piggyback on that to your question, Commissioner O'Bear, if it's okay, Chair Gosar, the civilian driver program has really been a great experiment in cost containment for the city because, as Dan said, our fire personnel do double duty as trained firefighters and emergency medical personnel. So the training burden on them is enormous. When we hire the civilians, they certainly haven't had to have that level of training either on the fire side or the EMS side. And so you can imagine that while we try to pay them a very competitive wage, it certainly is reflective of having not nearly the skill set that our fire and EMS personnel do. So it's been a really great way to contain our costs while simultaneously expanding services, right? We're a growing community and we're a growing county. I haven't looked at your census numbers, but I suspect they got bigger, did they?
Well, something weird happened in the census.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that a different day. But our city numbers went up a titch. We still don't think they're quite what they should have been, but I would guess yours probably did similarly. So we have a growing community and we're constantly struggling with how do we keep serving more people? And when it comes to public safety, right, more people means more calls. It just always does. So this has been a really great experiment under the chief's tutelage to bring in folks that are lower cost labor, basically, and enable us to still make the patient inter-facility transfers. And I want to talk about that for a second because we've seen our patient inter-facility transfers grow every single year for a decade now. And those calls take a lot of time, right? You just don't run down to Lewis Street to somebody's house and take them to the hospital. You're going down to Denver to other parts of other facilities, wherever Ivinson's transferring patients. And it can take a long time, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours round trip, depending on the circumstances. So that pulls our personnel out of town and away from providing EMS response in another ambulance or in providing fire response. So civilian drivers have enabled us not only to contain cost, but to preserve our fire response capability at roughly, the same cost. So it's been a good program.
Yeah.
Let's see, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, please go ahead, Commissioner Richardson.
All right. In the cost of service, I'm looking at revenue. $1,032,312. And I'm going to guess that the $900,000 that IMH pays, like there's a base, like to me, I think that that's operating cash, right? Because you can't provide all that service on the front end and wait to get paid through billing. So I'm going to guess that the 900,000 is included in it. What is the other 132,312?
So we, as Dan said, our agreement with the hospital is based on this base revenue of 900,000, which is what we know we've collected at least 900,000 for many, many, many years. So they guarantee that. And then anything over that they collect comes to the city. So that remaining 132,000 comes to the city.
Gotcha. So that's the reconciliation at the end.
Correct.
That means that you can't get any less than 900,000 regardless of
Correct.
how much service you provide.
That is correct.
Because you have to have 900,000 just to hold it up. And then beyond that, you get paid for the service as though, if you only did $500,000 worth of service in a year, you'd be dead. You have to have 900K to hold up the whole process. Is that true?
Commissioner Richardson, through you, Chair Gosar. I think what you're saying is generally correct. I want to push back a little when you said you need 900,000 to prop it up. Even at 900,000, the city's in a deep loss.
No,
right?
I understand.
But that's the amount of revenue we at Ivinson know we're going to collect. It's like safe revenue. So
Yep.
we can all agree up front, yeah, we'll give you 900,000 and then anything over that once we reconcile your end.
So you can ostensibly provide $1.5 million worth of service and get those reimbursements. But I'm going to guess that some of it, so when when someone's health insurance pays for the ambulance, right? The city gets paid for that. But I'm gonna guess that there's a certain amount of indigent care that never gets collected.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna guess the hospital does not eat that.
Yeah, so through you, Chair, Commissioner Gosar, an interesting finding for me early on when we started these talks years ago with the hospital to try to just formalize and make more of a professional business relationship between us and IMH versus handshake agreements, as Pete said. One of the things that was really shocking to me was to find that I'm told medical billing. So when you see this $1,032,000 in revenue that was captured this year, the billing was at least twice that. So I'm told by the medical professionals that medical bills usually are not paid or ultimately collected at a rate higher than 48%, I think it was. This has been years ago. It might be a little different now. But that's what always shocks me is to think, we're really only capturing back half of the cost that we bill out. But I guess that is standard in the industry. So not ours, but the medical industry.
Yeah. So
So,
you
yeah.
bill, you give $2 million worth of ambulance rides and get paid $1 million for it.
Hopefully, yes. Yeah,
With a $900,000 guarantee.
that's it. Yep.
Gotcha. And why is inter-facility transfer? Why is that considered a negative? I mean, don't you get
Yeah.
paid for those or?
Well, for purposes of this cost of service exercise, Chair Gosar, Commissioner Richardson, we were asked here to show the cost of service for only that first emergency medical response that goes out into the county. Not really something that you would have to deal with. Once we deliver a patient, whether they came from the county or from the city, once delivered to the hospital, they became a patient of that facility. Then that facility, after initial treatment, can determine to transfer them elsewhere. But we can't tell you, we transferred 30 patients and 10 of them were from the county. We don't know anymore. They just become a patient or we're transferring a patient.
Oh, I understand that. I
facilities.
wasn't
Yeah.
trying to
Does that make
separate
sense? So
them
we
out.
backed it out there. It's to your question though, it's real legitimate revenue, but not for the purposes of trying to show you what EMS side costs, the first response emergency medical. Yeah.
All right, I'm struggling with that a little bit.
Remember when I said we have, EMS is two parts? It's that first response when you go to someone's
Yes.
house on Lewis Street.
Then you have the
Yeah.
inter-facility transfer.
Right. And then we deliver them to the hospital. They may never leave the hospital, but the hospital might ask for them to be transported. And when they are transferred to another facility, that's a different situation.
I
if that makes
understand. You
sense.
have to subtract that to get to the true
To the
cost of
cost of-
first responder.
Exactly.
Because that's actually revenue, but it has to be taken back out.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
it's not part of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
I
it's
get it.
real money, but we didn't
Okay.
want to credit that to the cost of first response because that wouldn't be appropriate.
So Janine, what happens in the case of first responder gets to a house and the person refuses to be transported?
It's typically, if we've done an evaluation and done anything, there'll be, there's a code for that and there'll be a bill. But if it gets there and they're like, a lot of times we end up where someone else calls and the person doesn't want to go and they didn't want to be seen. And that's what we call a dry run. And there's no bill generated on that. We run the call, but there's no bill. And there's a number of those that happen in the city and a number that happen in the county. Several car wrecks people will see, and they'll call and maybe no one needs help, but we launch because we were paged out and we were called for service and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, we reiterate these numbers for emergency response, and we took all dry runs out of here. Oh, you left them in? I thought you took them out. I'm glad you're here. So they're in there.
No, they're
They're still in there. Okay, I thought you said you took them out. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman,
Go on ahead, Commissioner Richard.
where I think, I'm not sure exactly how this conversation is going to go. I don't know how tough the negotiation is between the city and IMH. I don't know if they drive a hard bargain. And the chair has been through this because, of his Wyoming Association of County Commissioners, the discussions there. A lot of the hospitals in the state are the commissioner's deal. And then EMS belongs with the county commission also. And what's unique about Albany County is that our hospital is a special district with elected officers and mills that it receives. And then it's paying that, I guess, to cover the whole county. So it'll be interesting to see kind of when you compare the models, where they should intersect as far as revenue and expense go. I mean, in a certain sense, the $900,000 that's paid by the hospital it's a good thing for them because it means all the customers come to them, even if only 50% of them pay. And actually, they don't bill at the real cost to provide services. They bill at the highest billable rate so that they can have a bigger write down on their books. If you hook somebody up to a ventilator or you do an MRI, maybe the cost for labor and electricity is $100 or $150 or $200, but you can bill it at $1,500, so you can take that right down on your taxes at the end of the year. So I don't know if 50% recovery represents the true cost, but it represents like the accrued billing. It's an interesting thing. I guess it'll be interesting to see where the county fits in when it's not a county hospital. They receive bills and they're their own special district. And I don't know that I have the answer for that right now. And I don't, commissioners set the mills. So I have some thoughts going in that direction too. Anyway, thank you.
Well, just to address a little bit of that, maybe Commissioner Richardson is on the committee. There is on the Wyoming County Commissioners Association, a member from Sweetwater County, and they're facing a $2 million bill to their commission for EMS continued service. Now, I'm sure they have a different arrangement with their city than we do, with their hospital than we do, but they're similar in size, right? Sweetwater County is similar in size to Albany County as far as number of people. And so this is a conversation that I welcome because I think this is an opportunity I was educated with the whole idea, listening to Janine and Dan. I didn't realize that the city, nor the county, nor the hospital has to provide EMS services. That is, you are not statutorily required to provide EMS services. And so in some places where I grew up in Sublette County, it might get pretty sketchy whether you're going to have EMS services or not. And then that is what we're working on in this working group is how do you provide it to a place that really doesn't have the amount of people and the amount of payers to make it cash flow. And here we're in a different situation, thankfully. I think we have a really amazing service. I think I agree with you, partners that need to be at the table that aren't at the table, and hopefully we'll get them to the table because not every entity that is served by Dan's group pays, and we're one of those that don't pay. And I think we need to get that right. But then I think it also is an opportunity to reach out to other ones and say, hey, this costs, and we all benefit because we have this amazing service. How do we all pitch in? And work as a community on this really important community service. And so I really do appreciate you guys taking time out of your Monday evening to talk with us. I really think the next steps will probably be do something like we did with the detention center. Talk to us about an MOU and what that entails. And then we'll do the back and forth about what we all can live with and get it underway. And then I think it is time to reach out to other partners and say, okay, what can you do to help this service stay as high quality as it is and not have the city of Laramie or the city of Laramie and the county hopefully bear the cost of it entirely, because it's not just our citizens that are benefiting from that. Any other questions before we leave with these guys and send them on to their day?
I have a
Thank you.
question. How often do you respond to Eastern Carbon County? Like Arlington, McFadden, so there's going out of the city municipality, right? But then there's also going outside the county.
I would have to do some research on that. We do respond we have mutual aid agreements with Carbon County, Laramie County, counties to the south that Poudre Valley covers, Platte and Converse, I believe, County. We respond into those counties basically for two reasons. One would be sometimes the call comes in, we're really not quite sure exactly where it's at. So we're launching, they're launching, and we end up in someone else's jurisdiction based on the location of the call.
Like Sand Creek Park.
Yeah. And people, it's hard, whoever's calling in don't know exactly what jurisdiction they're calling for. So we want to make sure somebody's getting there as quick as they can. Another reason we'll be in those counties is because they're facing a situation where they're being overwhelmed and that works for us too, if we need additional help. So i.e. the 40 pile up semi, there was people from Cheyenne, people from Laramie, people from all the county fire districts there. It's a big incident command scene, and it's run as such. And we help our neighbors help us in those situations. So yes, it does happen. How many times? I would have to do some research on that. But those are basically the two reasons we end up outside of our jurisdiction in those other, and when I say jurisdiction, I'm talking about Albany County there.
Mr. Chairman.
Sure, go ahead, Commissioner
I
Richard.
have a comment, and that is, it's interesting when we compare Albany County to other counties, like Sweetwater. They have two major municipalities in addition to some smaller ones. But what they do, when you look at what their economic engine is, where their tax base is, it's the exploitation of natural resources. And a lot of I'm going to guess the calls that the county commissioners pay for go to soda ash mines, railroad calls, all of the transportation associated with their industries. Our struggle is that we just don't have a tax base. If it's Campbell County or Converse, it would be similar. I'm going to guess that it's super rough in the Bighorn Basin because ag improvements don't pay any tax. And that's where everybody lives. So in a certain sense, we're pretty concentrated in a small area in this county, which is helpful. And we don't have much tax base. And that's the issue.
Yeah. Well, the good news is I think the community works together really well and has created many things beyond what they probably should have. And so here's just another opportunity to work together in an organization that really everybody benefits from. And so Chief Johnson, City Manager Jordan, thank you for your time. I so do appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, item 9, present for approval, approach license for Andrew and Christina Millamon on County Road number 59, Hunt Road, located in section 29, Township 17th North, Range 76 West. Rob, are you still there? I think I saw you.
Yep, I'm still here if you can hear me.
Gotcha, loud and clear. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, this is a approach license off of the Hunt Road for residents that is currently they're getting their applications for and through planning and stuff, and they also need an approach license to have access to their property and access Hunt Road. So I've looked at it. It looks good from our standpoint.
Commissioners, any questions for Rob? I'd entertain a motion for 9.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item 9 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thanks, Rob, appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Item 10, discuss and approve the hiring of a new human resources generalist. Christina, I have you. Thank you, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Pete and commissioners. So you asked me to bring back some further information from the last meeting when I presented and you guys tentatively approved the HR position. So I think I have all of the information to the best of my ability currently. In your guys' packet, you have the most current job description. That would be the one that we will be using and that we'll use to post the position. No major changes after speaking with Jackie and making sure that we were both on board. We think we have a pretty solid job description. So the one that was originally presented with a few minor spelling changes is the one we plan to use. In regards to the funding for this position, in meeting with Tracy and Jackie, Tracy has suggested that initially the funds for the position come from the cash on hand pool of money. And then the next budget cycle, we would take it out of the salary fund that we've been building. And so I forgot my paper at the office, but I think Tracy said there was like 600,000 cash in hand or something. So there should be enough money to cover that at least through the end of the fiscal year. In regards to the location of this position, so we've been kind of asking around, and I think we have a pretty good solution. I spoke with Rebecca, the drug court director, and asked about the possibility of having her space on the 3rd floor. In talking with her, she's actually really excited about the opportunity to potentially move outside of the courthouse. She talked to me about some concerns with the participants and having to come in and always seeing the judge and the court personnel on a regular basis when they're there for drug court. We actually talked heavily about the juveniles and the confidentiality and having a more private space that would benefit her and her program. And so in speaking with Bailey and Rebecca, we believe that there's money in her grant to actually pay for rent of a location. And so she has been working with a realtor here in Laramie to look at possible rental locations in town that she can afford within her grant. And so it worked to our benefit because she sees some program benefits to move outside of the courthouse. And then that would free up that space on the 3rd floor to allow human resources to move in there. With that said, HR would only need 2 of the offices, and there's 3 currently, and then the general space in the middle. So we have a couple ideas for that. One is Jackie and I talked about that the commissioner's room is always booked, and that's kind of our, not always booked, but that's our general meeting location when anybody in the courthouse needs to meet. So we could leave one of the rooms as a full conference room up on the 3rd floor. We could do employee trainings in there. We can hold interviews in there. And then anything in addition that other offices need to schedule, they could schedule in that conference room. Another idea is possibly, and this may be longer term, but if the grants office continues to expand, possibly moving the grants office up with HR and giving Jackie more space downstairs. And so that's a possibility. We definitely don't want the space to go to waste because I only need 2 of the offices, but I think that collectively we can come up with some good ideas to utilize that space. And then the last piece that you asked about was the structure of the position and who it would report to. Ultimately, the position would report to human resources. Jackie and I still agreed that there wasn't a split that we wanted to determine. So 50% HR, 50% payroll, 70% HR, 30% payroll. We really envision it being more of an ebb and flow because she's going to have a lot of changes in her office coming up as well, with her retiring, the possibility of Kayla running, which pulls Kayla away from helping with the elections process. And then Amanda needing to assist in elections, that this position could definitely be utilized during that time frame when they need the help with payroll. So we didn't necessarily assign a percentage to it, but I think that Jackie and I have a good working agreement on kind of seeing how it goes as the position progresses. Is there anything that I missed, or do you have any questions?
Commissioner Ibarra, Commissioner Richardson, any questions for Christina?
I have none.
I have one question. I remember when drug court was not in the physical courthouse building, there was some discussion about safety.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just based on the clientele and the who and the what and the where. And I'm curious if, because now we have a new, director, a new head of drug, specialty courts, who hasn't ever been on the flip side of that. Does that make sense? And I wonder if that conversation's been had with her.
Yep, it has. Actually, that was the first area of concern that she brought up. But we simplified that by basically she was saying, we don't want to lose our panic button system. And I said, well, you won't. The county actually has a contract with CPS services for all of our outbuildings for panic buttons. We currently have it contracted for 5, and it's a pretty minimal cost. I haven't quoted it with them yet, but for what we pay for all 6, I can't imagine that it would add more than $25 a month to add on drug court to get them panic buttons. She's not as concerned as the previous directors in regards to safety and having an issue. She has indicated, that they are aware they have high risk individuals that come in, but felt that having a panic button system, and as long as somebody responds, that they would be okay. I did ask Rebecca if she would like to join us this evening so she could talk to you guys about it, but she's at a soccer game with her kids in Cheyenne. So, but we did discuss it, and she was fine as long as we can provide them some panic buttons for their office.
Satisfied with that answer. One more question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, please.
That is, as far as the grant paying for it, I'm going to guess that because we're providing space inside the courthouse, we don't get any remuneration on the grant, whether it's in kind or, the grant's not going to pay us directly into our general fund. So in a certain sense, if I'm thinking right, if the grant buys its own space, it basically frees up a chunk of the courthouse without any cost to the general fund. Right. Is that a fair statement?
It is. So the grant would cover it at 100%. And that's one of the reasons we approached drug court, because when Jackie and I met and we sat and talked about all the possible locations for this and for this individual and or for the HR office to move, we were trying to have the least amount of impact on the budget. And then, looking at offices that are statutorily required to be here and kind of what that looked like. And so, we weren't even sure if it was going to work, but I approached Rebecca, and the grant covers it at 100%. So there is no cost to the county for them to pay rent and move outside of the courthouse. It does free up real estate, which is prime, as you guys know, and then would still allow some additional space for growth, or however you guys want to manage that space. So it worked out for us in this sense, and I think it'll be a good fit. In the meantime, just to address that, we were thinking maybe Rebecca wouldn't leave the courthouse and drug court wouldn't leave until the first of the year. And in the interim, Jackie has agreed, and I can have space in my office as well, to have additional desk for the individual until we make the move. So Jackie was kind enough to allow us a space in her office, and then I can put a desk in my office so the employee can go back and forth until we make the transition.
Any other questions, commissioners?
Boy, space is getting, the real estate is valuable in this courthouse. Do you know that most commissions, maybe all of them in the state, the commissioners have offices in the courthouse, and our real estate's too valuable for us to have offices in the courthouse?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if there's no more questions, I'd entertain whatever your pleasure is on item 10, commissioners.
I move that we approve item 10 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. I appreciate it, Christina.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you,
bet. Have a
Jackie,
nice
for all your
evening.
work.
You bet. Item 11, present for approval, Resolution 2021-028, resolution to appoint special prosecutor. And it looks like Jennifer, you'll be presenting tonight. Thank you. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman Gosar. So this resolution that's in front of you is to appoint a special prosecutor in a criminal matter because there are relationships in our office that prevent us from being able to prosecute this matter, and Carbon County has agreed to take over prosecution of this matter with your approval.
Commissioners, any questions for Jennifer?
Jennifer, this happens even if it's just one person involved? As
It's-
far as a conflict in the office?
It is more than that.
Okay,
With regard to this. Usually, if it happens when it involves an employee of the courthouse or something related to them, but in this case, I believe, given the relationships between the parties, there are numerous individuals within our office who have had relationships in one form or another on a personal level and on a friendship level that everyone felt that they were unable to be able to meet those needs.
okay.
Just for education for me, Jennifer, does it cost on an hourly basis for a special prosecutor, or is that just something that is done between the county attorneys?
I believe that it is just done between the county attorneys. I don't know the answer to that for certain, but I can find out for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Just interested.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I think that that's true. And I don't know how fair the exchange is. If it was one for one, I mean, but you don't know how many hours, or it can't even be case by case. You could have a single case special prosecutor that could equal in terms of resources spent 10 on the other side, right? So I'm pretty sure there's no money exchanged and somebody could get a raw deal from time to time.
I would guess that on cases, if there was a prosecution that where you were asked to take a large case, there would be something else, but I don't know. I can find out for you and report back at your next meeting.
Yeah, it's no worries. It's not going to affect my vote on this one, but I'm just interested. Any other questions for Jennifer? I'd entertain a motion for 11, and I think we have to authorize me to sign that also in that motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve resolution 2021-028, resolution to appoint special prosecutor and have you sign.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 12, thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Present for approval, updated quote from Absolute Audio Visual for additions to the audiovisual equipment in the Commissioners Meeting Room in an amount not to exceed $11,081.03. Adam, are you there? Yep, there you are. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. This is an updated quote. I do apologize. The first one I presented was a misquote in terms of the ceiling mics. They quoted us ceiling speakers instead of ceiling mics when I was issuing the PO. I caught this. We did try to price adjust so that we didn't have to bring this before you again for a price adjustment. We could not make that happen as you're trying to close almost a $3,500 gap. They did give us heavy discounts in the interim for the mistake made. This is the same equipment that I was quoting prior, just actually correct.
Commissioners, any questions?
Mics are way more expensive than speakers, aren't they?
Well, these are large array. I mean, there's about 100 mics per array. They're pretty massive. It's probably the most expensive piece in this ecosystem. So, but also the most critical. as I really want to hear all of you all the time.
Any other questions, commissioners? I'd entertain a motion for item 12, if not.
I move that we approve item 12 as presented.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same side. That motion carries. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item 13, present for approval, agreement for janitorial services at the Albany County Annex Building. Roy, thanks for staying with us. The floor is yours.
Sorry about that.
I'll give it to you. Yeah, it's
Good time.
Okay, Mr. Gosar and commissioners, I'll just read this for you, Pete, since it's just a memorandum that we had with notice of 7220 commercial cleaning when they terminated their services of cleaning the annex buildings. We solicited quotes from other janitorial service providers to take over that building. We only received 2 quotes, one from Johnny Johnston Custodian and one from Wilkin Enterprises. Wilkin Enterprises provided a quote with their initial response to the RFP for annex building in the amount of $225 per month for a total of $2,700 per year. Gary confirmed that that price would be effective under this situation as well. Johnny Johnston Custodian, he cleans the public health building, and he provided a quote of $100 a week, which would be a total of $5,200 per year. My recommendation would be Johnny Johnston. I believe we would have a higher quality of cleaning for those janitorial services at the annex. But I also recognize that this price quotation is nearly double that of Wilkin Enterprises LLC, and I will defer the decision to the commission.
Thanks, Roy. I appreciate it. Commissioners, any questions for Roy on this? And I'd entertain a motion for item 13, and I guess deciding which one of the janitorial services, Mr. Johnson or Mr. Wilkins, that you'd like to give the work to.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question.
Okay, go on ahead, please.
I don't know how, I guess I don't remember or never saw this solicitation for, but I'm trying to figure out if we have an apples to apples comparison, you know, in terms of what services we expect to be provided.
Well, there is a scope of work for each building that's wrote out. I don't have it in front of me.
Right.
But there is a scope of work where it is apples to apples to you clean the bathrooms and you do everything's listed as far as what's required of that job. So there is a scope of work for each building. And so they both had the same scope of work, just like they would with the courthouse or the other buildings. So it would be apples to apples.
I move that we approve the agreement for janitorial services at the Albany County Annex with Wilkin Enterprises.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thanks, Roy, for doing the work. I appreciate it. And so sorry we had to do it with 7220s. The stuff that happened with that organization.
Right, and I just also want to give a shout out to the IT department, Adam and his crew, for taking over the cleaning of 501, because that was part of the original contract in 7220. They decided to take that on, and also the people that are currently working at the planning and zoning annex, including the public defenders that have been cleaning their offices for about a month and a half now, I think, Jennifer, since we started on this. So And all of David Gertz, his staff as well, of cleaning their own building and doing a good job and not even complaining at all. So I just want to give a shout out to those people.
Thanks, Roy. And thanks to everybody for helping out and pitching in on this one. I really do appreciate it. Item 14, present for approval, contract between the Board of Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming, by and through the Albany County Information Technology Department and TW Enterprises Inc. for services of Albany County generators in an amount not to exceed $6,602.22 annually. Adam.
Commission, thank you for having us today. This is coming before you in light of Blake Halsey's departure from Albany County. It just dropped back as an item needing to be finished. These quotes, we were going out for bid, essentially trying to generate bids for the generator maintenance. I know he had a lot of struggles trying to get secondary or third party quotes. We received two, one from TW Enterprises and another from Collins and Colin. I apologize. I don't remember. I didn't. Collins and Control. Yep, out of Northern Colorado there. Both essentially Apple to Apple service maintenance. So before you today is the TWE contract as generated. The kind of the deciding factor there, them locking in for a yearly price on a 3-year term, as well as a 10% discount on all services or all parts related to repairs if we have a failure. We do know that our generators are aging and are a consistently used unit as we constantly transition over to them every season. It just kind of goes with the ballpark there. And so that discount did help them, in my opinion, win it, and why I have it before you today.
Commissioners, any questions for Adam?
I have none.
How many generators do we have?
10.
All right. I move that we approve item 14 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 15, present for approvals, service orders and broadband service agreement between the Board of the Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming and Visionary Broadband for fiber internet services. Adam, you're up again.
Yes, Commissioners, Commissioner Chair, thank you for your time today. So before you is 2 contracts and the service order forms as exhibits, one being the Visionary BSA and the second being our contract between the Board of Commissioners and Visionary Communications. This is the fiber interconnects and fiber services. This is essentially a 10-year agreement between our organizations. Again, this is what we went out for RFP for. It's the contracts we put together. The locations are still there. You'll notice that this contract is in a total of just under $510,000 for that term, also including the half term increase with jumping from the 1 gig circuits to the 10 gig circuits at year 5. All of which looking to be paid from ARPA funds. The total, I will highlight that the ARPA funds I requested was closer to 650,000. This being only that 510, this is the first step. There's still other projects that I'd like to bring into that to continue our broadband services, including the public access Wi-Fi, the outdoor establishments, as well as services into Rock River. We're trying very hard. And Visionary is working with us really well in good faith there to look to get services in there into Rock River. And I'm really pushing for fiber because they don't have anything currently. It takes one to get a foothold. And then from there, you can drive competition, of course, which is and so we'll see that hopefully as an amendment, depending on what we can bring to those and what we can fish out. But this is to get the services started. We really need to start getting the construction essentially working, get boring, so on and so forth before the ground gets too hard. The project starts with replacement of the managed microwave point-to-points, which Visionary will be doing in our behalf as part of the agreement. That management still resides with the county and with county IT. So those are still our links. We don't lose anything in there. It's hardware and installation. That's still our links. And then from there, when we're on the more dedicated and much more stable equipment, apologize. With, at the same time, in conjunction, they're working on boring and bringing those fiber to the locations based on the service orders. So the contracts lay our base terms as service orders, lay our services and locations. There's good language in here, and I really want to give a shout out to the legal team. Jennifer was outstanding. Oh my gosh. On all of this.
All those things.
All of them.
All of it. The visionary team has been great to work with, but it gives us the circuit portability. We may, if there's a move in terms of location, a department sells, moves into a different facility, so on and so forth, and we need to service that. It does allow us to keep those base service charges minus the, kind of the construction costs, of course, to move the service into that location. That would be the, the relicensing of the point-to-point for the redundant link. And then of course, the construction costs of boring new fiber to a different site. But you don't lose your baseline. You don't see a hike of price. You still retain your base services and everything that's associated with it, the network management, X to Z,
Cool.
Commissioners, any questions for Adam? Adam,
Mr.
I
Chair,
have-
I move that we approve item 15 as
Second.
presented.
Moved
Second,
and seconded. Adam, do you have a preliminary idea when this would be built out and finished?
The RFP did include a timeline. The longest being, I think we had a 90-day turnaround on the point-to-point replacement, which would greatly increase the reliability and the sustainability and the throughput. I mean, that would be a huge win with itself within 90 days, which I see is completely viable based on the current set. When we're getting into that, of course, we're getting close to cold weather. The longest point being the road and bridge fiber run, and they had quoted that 180 days, but there was, essentially secondary language that stated, if we can't board, it's too frozen, we have to push for those service sets. So I don't have an entirely accurate one, but the best one I had was the 180-day time schedule. I'm happy to provide the commission reports based on the project and timeline updates as it comes available to me.
Nope, just trying to figure out when we'd have all this super cool internet ready to go.
Oh my gosh.
6 months looks like, is that what I'm hearing?
I would say that's a fair estimate.
Awesome. Any other discussion?
yeah, I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Right now, we beam signal point to point through the air,
Yes, sir.
and we're gonna replace that with fiber. Is that true?
So yes and no. Those links are still gonna be sustained. So those are there. It's a two-phase approach. You have your fiber, which is your primary link, but we also retain redundant failover to our own
So
microwave points.
we won't take it down.
No,
We'll just have
we
another
improve
one.
it, and that gives us our resiliency, and we bring in the fiber for its resiliency as a whole too.
And the path, what's the path for the fiber? Do we use the railroad right away? Because they basically have to bore their way through town. How do we get over there?
There's a couple loops on the backside there that already ran through telecoms on the far side of YDOT, I believe. So at most maybe a highway jump, but there is already utilities past the railroad.
Gotcha.
If you would like a better layout in those terms,
So it's not a direct connection. We're jumping into a network that has to, the last 200 yards or 400 yards has to be done.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. No, this isn't, it's not dark fiber. We're not lighting it up with our own equipment base. It's not, bore all the way from the courthouse to those.
Yeah.
That would be an astronomical,
It would.
endeavor for sure, trying to follow along. No, we're getting in, as many people have to here, with the service provider that provides those circuits and provides the service.
So somewhere down there by YDOT, we do the last few hundred yards, basically.
I believe so. Yeah. I can't remember if it's on that side or I'm mixing up Spectrum's walkthrough with their walkthrough, but I know there's services in that general area. If you want a direct connect lay-in, I'm sure we can generate those maps if you'd be interested.
No, That's way
They-
too much.
Visionary did a great job in at least laying out how our connections integrated into their overall network and their redundant links in and out of town. And that was a big part of the RFP and an ask that we had from that. And so that we understand which links and which circuits they're writing out of town, how they provide redundancy after we carry off from ourselves, to make sure that we can always get in and out no matter what.
Right.
Yep.
It seems like we used to use Mountain West
We still do.
going to,
Going to the north end of town.
and will some of that get,
My current plan is to keep that as a redundant link, as our backup link, and get away from the Spectrum business link. It's, this link will be faster, but then you kind of, it follows kind of the thought process, one by land, one by air. In utilizing, again, the large tower that we have. In
how
the
far can we
infrastructure.
go before we, like, because we have that tower on the hill by Rock River. This side of Rock River.
No, that's too.
We're gonna go, at some point, we're going air only, right?
No, the whole point of this is to get into the ground. I'm talking our backup link with Mountain West.
I guess somebody just put in, I just watched a year or two ago, somebody put in fiber the whole length of 287 out there, or Highway 30.
Yes, in Rock River, I believe there is at least a worldly vendor that provides Rock River on the right-hand side of 287. Trying to identify that and work with said parties to get leasing space into that is essentially Visionary's task.
Gotcha.
And that's one thing logistically they have to look at from their side, right? The cost of running it in, so on and so forth, but it's something that we're pushing hard for.
Yeah, I had forgotten that somebody, they were putting in fiber.
And I don't.
The whole length of that highway.
I've gotten different answers in terms of if the school up there is directly connected on that fiber. And I was like, is that, or are they pulling a point-to-point link and that's how they're feeding the school, the new school right there on the right-hand side.
Right.
And so it's a goal, personal goal. We want to serve that community and we're trying to work with partners to do so.
Thank you, Adam. Any further questions? Been moved and seconded. And entertain a motion, or excuse me, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, guys. And again, thank you everyone for the work on this.
Thanks so much. Item 16, present for approval, memorandum of understanding between the County of Albany, Wyoming and the City of Laramie, Wyoming for collaborative and coordinated growth management through establishment of a joint growth area agreement. So this is one we talked about at our last meeting. The county had some ideas that we would take the lead, and it looks like it's been sent over to the city and returned back that they agree with the MOU that's before you. If I'm not presenting that correctly, Jennifer, please stop me. And then we'd like to get this work underway to coincide with the CAP work, because I think some of that stuff is very, there's good synergy in those collaborative plans going together. So commissioners, any questions or concerns about the memorandum that's before you in item 16? I'd entertain a motion for item 16 then.
I move that we approve item 16 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 17, set work session to discuss ARPA funds. As you're thinking about it today, and as we just heard from Adam, I think we probably ought to set this sooner rather than later, because we might just be setting the by just what we approve before having an overarching thought about what we should put in each pile. So there seems to be 4 tenets of the ARPA funding. And is there a time that works better for you guys as far as a work session?
I don't know. I think that somebody has to throw out, what's our deadline? What's our window we have to fit in?
Well, the deadline's, 2 years, but I think sooner rather than later would help us get people understanding what our priorities would be with the money so that they can start to ask for that money. Is that right, Bailey? Would you have an idea about that?
Yes, I mean, I would say you guys would like, I would like you guys to meet sooner rather than later to start some of these projects. I have a personal thing on Monday. I will not be next Monday, so I'm hoping we don't pick next Monday, just so I can be here and make sure you guys have all the information that I have at least. And you guys can, start working through some of these requests that have been out there. I do have an updated Excel spreadsheet that I've had a few more requests come in, or a few things we've just added that I will get to before whatever work session date you guys do set. And I'm hoping they will come out with the final rules for this funding. I have yet to see it. I've been told they're supposed to come out in September and I haven't seen them yet. So there's still lots more reading to do on it, but I think we do still need to continue these conversations and start moving forward on some of these projects.
How do you guys' Fridays look? Like October 1st, Friday?
I could do morning that day.
I'm open.
Tuesday and Wednesday of next week are fine for me. It sounded like Monday was
Out.
out because we, our meeting's gonna be kind of late. Sounds like everybody's kind of busy.
I could do Tuesday and Wednesday next week and was going to propose that as well.
And I also could do Friday. I might want to go watch my daughter swim, but if it's in the morning, we can do it.
You better go watch it.
The person's got to have priorities.
So Tuesday morning is less good than Wednesday morning for me, but whatever one works better for you, we'll just go with that.
Wednesday morning's fine.
What time are we saying Wednesday morning?
Wednesday, the 29th of September.
Yeah, what time?
I don't, 8, 9.
Sounds good. Let's do 8:30.
8:30 on Wednesday. Jackie and Jennifer and everybody is out.
Sorry. Kayla was looking at the calendar. It looks like the sheriff has this room.
No, we shouldn't blow him up for that. We should.
They've been doing like Wednesday, Thursday interviews.
Oh.
It's, yeah, they're going hard.
Getting ahead of ourselves there.
Well,
Friday works.
I think we shouldn't make Pete do Tuesday if he can't. I mean,
No.
Friday morning, let's do it. 8:30 a.m. Would that
Friday
work?
morning, 8:30.
Yeah.
Jackie, how does that work with your schedule? And Tracy, I see you're on, or you used to be online. Okay, I guess Tracy's good for Friday.
Actually, the sheriff has Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week scheduled for the use of the room.
I didn't hear that completely, Jackie.
What she said is the sheriff has it for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
That's correct.
Oh, boy. Well, I guess it looks like Tuesday.
All day?
And whether he uses it all day, I don't know. I don't know if they have that many interviews or if he just does it in case he has them. I don't know. Maybe we need to ask him. Yeah. I mean, he does have a conference in his office. I don't know if that allows him to.
Well, he may want to be here for the ARPA funds discussion, and if he's scheduled somewhere else, that would be hard on him.
How about Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon, which works better? And when's the room open, I guess is the better question.
All day, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think you should choose.
Yeah, go with what's good with you.
We have pre-agenda at 3.
Yeah, I can't imagine this should take more than a couple hours. What do you think?
if we went at 1 and then we'll
That's
have
what I
a
was
hard
thinking.
stop.
1 would work for me. Would it work for you guys? Jackie, and the pre-agenda, I know you have to prepare for that too.
That's fine, that works.
Okay, can we do it 1 o'clock on Tuesday, September 28th in the Commissioners Chamber? And do we need a motion for that? We don't, do we? Okay.
Just declare it
No,
so,
we don't.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, September 28th at 1 o'clock work session to discuss ARPA funds. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Item 18, approve payroll and vouchers for September 2021. I'd entertain a motion for that.
I move that we approve payroll and vouchers for September 2021.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Seeing no business before the County Commission on September 20th, 2021. I move to adjourn the meeting and safe travels to everybody headed to Waco. And thank you, Jennifer, for the Industrial Siding Council stuff and the preparation. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You all have a great evening.
Thanks, Mr.
You
Chairman.
too, Mr. Chair.